Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Black Hat USA 2024. Chuck Harold, SecurityGuideTV.com. This is episode 3059. Our next guest, Mr. Michael Thielander. He's the Senior Director of Product Marketing for Axiad.com. Mr. Michael, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you very much, Chuck. Good to see you again. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Yeah, you're one of my legacy interviews. I've been doing Black Hat 10 years, and I go into my graphics to see if I have a graphic from before, and I have from you, way back, you guys. But legacy company in this business, right? Today's product we're going to talk about is future-proofing multi-factor authentication. This is kind of cool. I've had a few future-proofing companies on, not like yours, different, where they're thinking way ahead. They're thinking, if quantum computing gets here, we're all going to be in trouble, right? So we're thinking way ahead into these areas. How have the attacks against multi-factor authentication changed? It was, a great solution, but as always, people find workarounds for stuff.
That's a really good question. It has been a fantastic solution. If I go back, I'm a bit of a dinosaur in cybersecurity, but if I go back to 2014, 2015, everybody was deploying MFA. It solved a really significant problem, I think, for organizations and cybersecurity leaders, throughout different industries. Certainly getting us away from a reliance strictly on passwords and what that means. However, we get a little bit complacent, and our bad guys, our adversaries, don't get complacent at all. So starting around 2015, we started to see a really significant uptick in different kinds of attacks against MFA. MFA, of course, can be done in lots of different ways. And like if you look at the SS7 protocol exploits that really started happening in Germany around 2017, those were pretty significant attacks focused on the banking sector. 2019 comes along, FBI issues a warning against all of these teams, Necrobrowser and Meridian, doing attacks against MFA, doing SIM swapping attacks and other kinds of code-based attacks. In 2021, there was this whole string of new OTP inception bots that actually came out and really started foiling a lot of organizations' MFA structures. In 2022, we had the rather large, significant Uber hack that was basically MFA push bombing. MFA fatigue is what the result of that was. An MFA-enabled system through a developer of Uber that still was exploited and caused a pretty significant amount of pain for Uber. 2023, we started seeing these really advanced attack kits. Evil Genix came out, 3.2, the latest version of it. So this is a dark web available attack kit specifically designed to be an adversary in the middle attack kit. Couple $100, not more than $500 to avail yourself of this attack kit that can get in there and do sort of advanced phishing for you programmatically against designated targets. And then in 2024, there was some interesting research and polls. InfoSecurity Magazine did a report, and they said despite the success of MFA, despite what we've seen, attacks, phishing attacks, particularly against sort of the weaker, lower level MFA functions, MFA push, text-based, SMS-based MFA, we're up about 350%, right? So those are the kind of attacks that we've seen. That's the adversaries kind of letting us rest on our laurels from about 2014. We're feeling pretty good about, deploying our Duo, deploying our Okta, deploying our Microsoft Entra ID, deploying the different functionality, and then just sort of systematically finding the holes in it.
So, Michael, I'm not feeling so good, actually. After you said all that kind of stuff, it makes me worry. But at least we're aware of the problem, right? And by the way, I use MFA on everything I have. I hate it. Isn't that terrible? It's inconvenient. It takes 3 seconds to do it, right? But it works, right? But it's still one of those little things when you have 150 accounts that each one has to have its own different version and authentication. It's annoying, but it's necessary, right? So what are we talking about emerging best practices to kind of address some of these issues you've been talking about? Because it's still the best, I think it's still the best defense we have at this point in time.
It really is the best defense that we have. It's the one that's most widely available. It's the one that's most generally accepted. And you're right. It's annoying. When I'm downstairs in my office down on the main floor and I log into something and I realize, I left my phone up in the bedroom and I got to go get it to go do a login. It's super annoying. So we'll just leave it at that. But there are a lot of new best practices, and not just in terms of usability, in terms of functional security, that can be deployed, especially in organizational MFA. I would encourage everybody to look at CISA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency out of the United States. If you just do a Google search, CISA phishing resistance or something like that, they will show you a pretty nice table of like what do you need to lay on top of, and how do you need to inject basically FIDO credentials like FIDO or credentials like PKI into your MFA workflow. What this does is it adds a layer of strength. It binds that device to that MFA authentication, that session, and that workflow. And for the most part, it's transparent. It doesn't affect the end user at all. There is no end user interaction. We're just adding a something you possess factor, a possession factor through a credential onto whatever device or number of devices that you're using. This is pretty cool technology. This has been available as PKI, as long as the computers, as long as the internet has been around. And in, the emergence of FIDO and FIDO2, which also uses a public key type infrastructure or type system to create those credentials, those things are available. They're around. They're just underutilized. And it is one of, I think, the strongest ways that you can take and secure an MFA, add another layer of credential to it, and then avoid some of the easier to foil things. Obviously, avoid SMS-based MFA because of the S7 exploits and the vulnerabilities in it. Avoid push-based MFA. But there's some good known existing credentials capabilities that you can add to MFA to make it work.
Now, that's a great organization. I've interviewed them several times, about 7 of their people, and they're really authentic. They really love this stuff, and they really want to help protect people. So I really encourage people to look them up and get that information. Now, are we reinventing MFA by putting these different layers in there? Let people know that that's not really reinvention. We're just augmenting it, right? We don't want to make it more, quote, annoying than it already is, but necessary. And I'm a big advocate. I don't want to come off as being I'm against it, because you have to use MFA. I wish I could get my mom to use it, Michael, so she doesn't think she's going to win the Publishers Clearinghouse. Her phone is completely infected with that.
Yeah, no, I get that. Absolutely right. So I think, Chuck, one of the greatest and most justifiable fears in cybersecurity among the people that have to sign for the budgets and implement tools is just this rip and replace. Don't tell me I've invested a lot of money in Duo, Okta, Ping, whatever my MFA is. I've invested a lot of money, even I've invested a lot of time in trying to implement, free MFA that's available from Microsoft. We don't want to rip and replace functionality, right? But you can take these functionalities and 9 times out of 10, you can weave them into your existing MFA workflow. If you look at Duo, for example, they have an add-on option to add phishing resistance. Now, the way they do it doesn't always use solid credentials like CISA would recommend or like Gartner would recommend, PKI-based or FIDO-based credentials, but that you can add these functions onto it. If you have one of those existing MFA solutions, you can look at the things that we do, and there are others, of course, that build sort of layer in the credentialed management, credential on those tokens, on your devices, on your endpoints, to give you that transparent and very strong phishing resistant MFA. So I think this is a little bit of a blessing for cybersecurity in that it's not a rip and replace technology. It's literally taking something that we've known for a long time, making it much more workable, make it much more functional, and weave it into our existing workflows and what we're doing today. And that's probably one of, I think, the best things about using this type of technology, using these strong credentials and following CISA's guidance. I'll mention one other thing. If you're a Gartner client, they've done a lot on this recently. There's a report, there's one of their innovation insight reports, I think it's called Many Flavors of MFA Tokens. Ant Allen and James Hoover, they did a really good job of breaking down all of the ways that you can deploy and deliver MFA, and then break it down and say which of these functions are phishing resistant, which of these functions and technologies should you really sort of de-invest in and not spend as much money in because they're becoming more problematic and more phishable. Which of these should you just literally be out of, like, SMS-based MFA? And so there's another good resource available to people out there, but there's lots of good guidance that can help people figure out, okay, what I want to augment my MFA. I want to future-proof it and make it stronger. I don't want to replace my MFA or go shopping for another system, lots of resources and tools that you can look at to go find the research that tells you how to enable these credential-based systems into your MFA.
Michael Thielander, Senior Director of Product Marketing, Axiad.com, a legacy company here, Black Hat. Good luck, my friend. You got a booth you can share, or where you guys might be, where we can find your Black Hat?
Nope, we're not having a booth. We're having a lot of meetings here. I'm going to a lot of sessions. There's some great talks. I think our next event will be probably Gartner IAM coming up in December. Pretty excited about that. But yeah, we will, and we may also be at the FIDO's, the Authenticate conference in October, with some new technology and new capabilities in Axiad Cloud that we can deliver. So looking forward to seeing anybody that's out and about in market.
Excellent, my friend. Good luck to you, and I'll catch you next year in person, I hope. Thanks.
Yeah, you got it. Thank you.